A pregnant white lioness begged for help to give birth. What came out left everyone speechless. What would you do if a rare and powerful creature appeared at your doorstep, in pain and desperate for help, and everyone around hesitated to step forward? Under the dim light of a fading sunset, the white lioness moved slowly, her breath heavy, her body tense with pain. She was alone, miles away from any trained help, her natural strength giving way to a fierce vulnerability. Each step she took was an effort, her eyes scanning the distant horizon for a sign, any sign that someone might come to her aid. The villagers nearby saw her first, a silent shadow in the vast wilderness, unlike anything they had seen before. Whispers spread quickly among them. A lioness so pale and striking could only be a sign of something extraordinary, yet also dangerous. But fear held them back. Memories of tales passed down through generations painted lions as wild and untouchable, mysterious rulers of the land who should not be interfered with. No one dared approach. Their hesitation was a silent barrier around the lioness's suffering. The dusty village square remained still, the weight of indecision palpable in the air. Inside the lioness, life and uncertainty clashed. She staggered toward an old hidden path where the trees formed a natural shelter, her struggle etched into every strained breath. Her desperate calls were soft growls and whimpers, sounds that spoke of both pain and an urgent need for trust. As night crept in, her situation became dire. Without aid, the fragile line between hope and disaster wavered. Yet amid the silence and fear, one question echoed stronger than all hesitation. Who among them would break the silence? Who would answer her silent plea before it was too late? The answer lay just beyond the village's borders, watched closely by eyes both wary and calculating. And what came next would change everything. But who really wanted to help, and who had other plans? The story was far from over. The hunter watched from a distance, crouched among the brush at the edge of the wilderness. His eyes never left the white lioness, limping toward the shelter of the trees. The villagers had not moved, frozen by fear and superstition, but he did not hesitate, not because he wanted to help. He had plans. Plans that involved those rare cubs she carried. Known in the village as a shadow and a threat, the hunter was feared for his skill and his ruthless reputation. He tracked the rarest animals, his traps and snares always meticulously set, his mind always calculating the value of his catch. Tonight, that gaze was fixed not on any ordinary prey, but on the white lioness and the promise her unborn cubs held. He imagined what they could fetch on the black market, wealth that could finally break him free of his quiet, lonely existence. But there was more at stake than just profit. The hunter's interest was a secret, carefully guarded. His family's survival depended on the income from rare animals. No one in the village knew this. They only saw the coldness in his eyes, the harsh warnings when anyone dared interfere. To him, the lioness was both an opportunity and a challenge, a living treasure. Hidden among the twisted branches, the hunter allowed the lioness's soft cries to reach him. The pain in her voice was real, yet it triggered no sympathy. Still, he never moved closer. He was patient, waiting for the right moment to act. He knew others might come, some foolish, some brave, but he would be the one to claim what mattered most. A faint glow from the village flickered in the distance. His lips tightened. Help was coming. He had to act before that happened, but what nobody saw was the shadow behind his cold mask. The hunter was weighed down by desperation, trapped by a legacy he did not want but could not escape. As he readied his next move, one question burned quietly in his mind. Could he control this moment, or would everything slip beyond his grasp? The night held its breath. The young veterinarian, Mara, sat quietly in her small clinic just beyond the edge of the village. The news of the white lioness had reached her through whispers among the villagers, fragments of desperation and fear. The rare lioness, alone in a world where survival was already a gamble, suddenly faced the most vulnerable moment of her life. Mara felt a tight knot in her chest, a silent pull she couldn't ignore. She packed her bag with urgency, stuffed with supplies that might help, tranquilizers, blankets, food, and medical tools. Questions crowded her mind. Would the lioness allow anyone near? Could she even get close enough? Was the beast too scared, too hurt, too dangerous? Mara's hands trembled slightly, though her voice remained steady enough to fool herself. As she moved through the wilderness, every step was a test. The sun dipped low, casting shadows that danced like warnings. What if the villagers were right to fear this animal? What if the hunger and pain in the lioness made her unpredictable? Mara forced the questions aside, focusing instead on the small hope that flickered inside her, a hope that this rescue was possible. Reaching the place the villagers described, Mara spotted the lioness lying low beneath a tree. Her fur was ghostly white, dirt-streaked, and the pain was etched deep in her eyes. Mara's heart clenched. This lioness was not just rare, she was fragile in ways few could see. Mara crouched quietly, trying to read the silent signals the animal gave. Could she trust Mara's presence? Was she a savior or a threat? Suddenly, a trace of movement caught Mara's attention. She froze. Nearby, cloaked in shadow, a figure watched her, not with kindness. The hunter, the man whose reputation was as dark as the night around them. Mara's confidence faltered. Should she approach? Could she succeed alone? The moment demanded a choice, risk everything she had learned, or retreat into safety. Doubts wove through her mind. Was this rescue a mission or a mistake? The answers lay tangled in the silence of the wild, where hope and fear collided beneath the endless sky. Mara stepped cautiously through the dry brush, her breath shallow, each movement deliberate. The white lioness lay just beyond a twisted acacia tree, struggling against pain as her body trembled under the weight of impending birth. Mara's heart ached silently for the creature, her eyes fixed on the pale fur mottled by earth and shadows. This lioness was a ghost barely holding on. Slowly Mara crouched on the dusty ground, inches closer than before, stretching out a gloved hand with soft whispers meant to comfort, not command. The lioness's amber eyes flickered with a mix of fear and exhaustion, a storm of raw emotion Mara could almost taste in the heavy air. But before Mara could offer the blankets she had brought, a low murmur rolled through the trees. Something, or someone, had appeared. From the shadows emerged the hunter, his silhouette sharp against the dying light. His eyes were dark, calculating, a flicker of coldness carved deep into his expression. Mara's breath caught in her throat. He stepped forward with a measured pace, his voice quiet but firm. "You shouldn't be here." The warning hung heavy between them. Mara lifted her gaze to meet his, searching for any sign of cooperation. Instead, she found only suspicion. "This lioness needs help," Mara whispered, her voice raw with urgency. "She's about to give birth. She's alone and in pain." The hunter's eyes narrowed, sharp like a blade. The wild doesn't welcome strangers in moments like these. Stay back. His stance wasn't aggressive, but the message was clear. He would not let her interfere. Mara felt the fragile thread of trust snap. The lioness, sensing the tension, shifted uneasily, a low growl rumbling from deep in her throat, more a plea than a threat. Mara's heart pounded harder, trapped between hope and fear. She couldn't afford to turn away, yet the hunter's presence solidified a barrier no words could cross, for now. Standing there, framed by fading light, Mara understood this rescue was no longer just about medicine or instinct. It was about breaking walls built on fear, stubborn shadows cast by lives bound in secrecy. As the lioness labored beneath the dying sun, Mara and the hunter faced each other, silent adversaries caught in the same storm. The night was descending, and still the lioness waited. So did they. The sun had finally slipped beyond the horizon, leaving an amber afterglow smeared across the sky. Mara moved with quiet urgency, her thoughts heavy and tangled like the dry brush beneath her feet. The hunter was nearby, his presence looming like a shadow she could neither ignore nor fully understand. Why had he stepped forward with such cold certainty? What did he want from the lioness? From her? Mara had hesitated before, but now, more curious than ever, she decided to take a risk. She followed the faint trail back toward the hunter's small camp, careful to keep distance, but desperate to learn more. The flicker of a fire, illuminated a rough wooden shelter, inside which voices whispered between rustling cloth and worn tools. She waited until the hunter stepped outside. His face was set in the dark. The firelight caught the sharp angles of his cheekbones, the deep lines that told stories of hard years. "Why won't you help her?" Mara asked, her voice low, tasting uncertainty. He didn't answer at first. Instead, he glanced down at his hands, rough and weathered. "It's not that simple," he said finally. "My family, we're tangled in things." His eyes darkened. "Things that keep us alive, sometimes at the cost of others." Mara frowned. "What kind of things? If she needs help, shouldn't we help her?" He looked away, a shadow passing over his face. "People expect me to hunt animals. Rare ones, yes, but it's not always for pride or sport. Some are taken because others want control." His voice faltered for a moment. "My family depends on that trade. It's how we've survived. That's why I'm wary of strangers, and why I'm wary of interfering directly." A strange sadness settled over Mara's chest. The hunter was not a monster. He was trapped, caught in a web of survival and compromise. But could he change? Could he break free from these chains long enough to save the lioness, to protect her cubs he seemed so willing to let suffer? Then came the doubt. Was this story the whole truth, or just a shadowed excuse? Mara's mind raced with questions, each more complicated than the last. Was the hunter hiding more? Was there a deeper plan? Did he see the lioness as danger, or as something to be saved? She looked into his eyes again, searching for a spark of hope or a flicker of trust. The moment stretched, a fragile thread between two worlds. The lioness's cries echoed in her memory, a haunting reminder of what was at stake. Mara knew one thing with certainty: the path forward would demand more than courage. It would require a leap of faith. But could she believe in the hunter? Could he believe in himself? The answers were hidden in the dark, waiting for dawn to break. Mara stood just beyond the flickering firelight, heart pounding as she faced the hunter once more. His shoulders were tense, his eyes cautious, wary, like a man used to guarding too many secrets. The lioness's heavy breaths echoed faintly in her ears, a reminder of the time slipping away. Mara's voice was steady, soft but urgent. "We can't let her suffer, or the cubs." He hesitated, the cold mask lifting slightly to reveal something fragile beneath. "I'm caught," he said quietly. "Maybe more than you know." His voice cracked with the weight of his truths. "If I help, I risk everything my family depends on. But if I don't, those cubs die." Mara took a breath, pushing fear aside. "You're not alone in this. I'm not asking you to fix everything, only to let me help, together, because they need more than fear." For the first time, the hunter's eyes softened, flickers of doubt and hope mingling. The lines of his face eased. "Why should I trust you?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Because it's what's right," Mara replied. "Because sometimes doing what's right means trusting someone else, even when it's hard." She stepped closer, offering not just words, but a possibility, a bridge between two worlds that had lived apart in distrust. He glanced back toward the dark brush where the lioness struggled. "I don't want to see her suffer either." His voice was fragile, almost breaking. "All right, we try, but we do it my way at first." Mara nodded. "Agreed. One way to start." That night, beneath a sky still warm from sunset, two unlikely allies forged a fragile partnership, both bound by desperation, both longing for change. If the lioness and her cubs were to have a chance, they would need to trust in something more than fear, a hope almost new and quietly fierce. Chapter 7. A wildfire brings them together. The dry heat had settled over the valley all day, and as dusk slipped into night, a sudden spark ignited at the edge of the dry brush. Flames began licking hungrily at cracked earth and brittle leaves. Mara spotted the smoke first, a growing haze swallowed by the darkening horizon. The hunter's sharp eyes soon confirmed it. A wildfire was spreading fast, driven by the dry wind. Panic bloomed in the air. The lioness, already weakened and trembling, tried to stir, but the smoke choked the air around her. Mara's heart clenched as she moved closer, her voice calm yet urgent. "We have to move her now, before it closes in." The hunter's gaze darted between the advancing fire and the panicked lioness. "There's no time for careful plans," he said, voice tense but steady. "We'll have to act fast and trust each other completely." They worked quickly, Mara supporting the lioness's head, while the hunter cleared the path with swift, practiced movements. The heat was rising, the fire's roar growing louder, a menacing backdrop that pushed them forward. The tension on the hunter's face melted away with every step as he focused solely on the task, saving the fragile life in his care. Mara felt the warmth of his breath beside her and sensed a shift within him, no longer cold and distant, but engaged, ready to fight beside her. Their shared urgency built a silent agreement, a fragile bond made stronger as the smoke thickened. At last, beneath a blanket of stars and the distant glow of the wildfire, they reached a safer clearing. The lioness lay down, exhausted but away from immediate danger. Mara knelt, checking her breathing, feeling the steady rhythm of life's stubborn will. The hunter watched quietly, the weight of the night settling on his shoulders. "I never wanted this alone," he murmured. Maybe together is the way." Mara looked up, tired but hopeful. "We start small, one step at a time." But as the wind shifted, carrying fresh embers toward the trees behind them, a chilling realization took root. This night's trials had only just begun. The fire's glow faded behind them, but the air was thick with the scent of smoke and an unsettling tension neither Mara nor the hunter could shake. They sat quietly beside the lioness, her breaths shallow yet steady, her eyes flickering with a fragile spark of life. The hunter's hands, once cold and withdrawn, now trembled slightly as he gently adjusted a makeshift blanket around her. "You risked a lot back there," Mara said softly, searching his face. "Why? You could have let her suffer." He didn't answer right away. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. When he finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper, it carried the weight of a confession he had fought to keep locked inside. "Because I saw what losing her would mean. Not just the lioness, but everything I've been holding on to." He paused, eyes distant. "I'm scared. Scared that if this goes wrong, there's nothing left." Mara nodded slowly, understanding more than he realized. "You don't have to carry this alone. Not anymore." But even as the words passed between them, doubt lingered. Could she really trust him? His past was shadowed with betrayals. Had he truly changed, or was this just another act? The moments they shared felt fragile, teetering on the edge of hope and suspicion. A sudden crackle startled them, an ember landing just feet away, sizzling quietly in the dirt. Mara's heart jumped. The fire wasn't done. Not yet. She glanced at the hunter, eyes wide. "What if it spreads again? What if we're not safe? Not yet." He met her gaze steadily. "Then we face it. Together. For her." That promise hung in the smoky air, uncertain but real, a bond forged in crisis yet tested by the unknown. Mara wondered quietly how far his resolve would go, and if their fragile alliance could hold against the shadows still waiting in the night. The tension that clung to the night air did not fade as dawn crept over the horizon. The lioness lay quietly, her body still trembling with the effort, but now nestled close to her were the fragile shapes of her newborn cubs. Their tiny paws twitched softly, and their soft breaths mingled with the faint rustling of the trees. Mara watched intently, her heart swelling with relief and awe. The white lioness, so fierce and alone just hours earlier, was now a mother, surrounded by new life. Beside Mara, the hunter sat with an unexpected gentleness. His eyes, once hardened by greed and fear, now softened as he observed the small family. He reached out, hesitating, then carefully extended a hand toward the cubs, as if reconciling with the undeniable miracles before him. The hunter's usual stoicism cracked, revealing a vulnerability Mara had never seen. "The cubs, they're alive," he whispered, his voice barely above the soft morning breeze. "I never thought I'd see this moment." Mara nodded, sensing how deeply this birth had shifted something inside him. "They have a chance now," she said softly, "because we're here. Together." The lioness lifted her head slightly, her amber eyes meeting Mara's, brimming with silent gratitude and exhaustion. She rumbled low in her throat, a sound of trust, fragile but real. Mara felt a connection she hadn't dared hope for. This wasn't just a rescue, it was the beginning of something sacred. As the sun's light spilled through the canopy, the fragile team gathered around their new charges. The hunter spoke quietly. "We can protect them. I want to help, truly help this time." Mara's heart tightened with hope. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but in that moment there was no room for doubt. They had found a new purpose. Saving these lives wasn't just about survival, but about healing, of the land, of the lioness, and of themselves. Together they rose, ready to face the world anew. The lioness with her cubs, the vet with her unwavering dedication, and the hunter whose heart was finally opening. Their story was no longer one of hardship and mistrust. It was one of courage, redemption, and the quiet power of hope. As days turned into weeks, the once distant villages began to change. The story of the white lioness and her fragile cubs spread through the small community, weaving a new thread of hope into the fabric of their lives. No longer were they bystanders to nature's struggle. Now they were protectors. Mara, the compassionate vet, alongside the hunter, whose name had become a whispered symbol of redemption, worked tirelessly to build a sanctuary. Together, they nurtured the fragile balance between human and wild, teaching respect where fear had once ruled. The hunter's transformation was profound. Freed from the shadow of his family's desperate past, he found purpose in protecting the very creatures he had once viewed as prizes. His hands, once skilled in tracking and capturing, now mended wounds and built shelters. The village, slowly but surely, embraced him, not as the feared outsider, but as a guardian and ally. Mara watched this change with quiet pride, knowing that healing came not only from saving lives, but from restoring broken spirits. The white lioness, proud and serene, grew stronger each day. Her cubs played beneath the acacia trees, their pure white fur catching the golden light of the African sun like ghosts of hope made flesh. They symbolized the future, fragile yet fierce, a testament to resilience, trust, and the power of kindness. Mara often found herself sitting nearby, feeling a sacred connection to these wild souls and to the land that had nurtured them all. In the evening, as the sky blushed deep oranges and purples, the team gathered. No words were needed. Their eyes shared the silent promise to protect this new life together. The white lioness, once a symbol of desperate pain, now embodied healing and hope. The hunter, once lost to greed, had found his path, and Mara, with unwavering faith, had unlocked something extraordinary. The truth that second chances are real and that even the most broken hearts can learn to beat with love. Their story was complete, a living testament to courage, change, and the gentle strength that rises when people choose to believe in each other and the wild world they share. If this story touched you in some way, tell us in the comments which part resonated the most with you. What lesson do you think shines brightest here? Subscribe to the channel. Your presence makes it all worthwhile. The next story might touch your heart even deeper.